Hey, what's up, Taurus? Welcome to your vibe check. Welcome to your reading. This is for the Taurus Collective. Let's just, jump right into it and see what you are working with. This is for the Taurus Collective. We're going to see what your overall sort of vibration is, what your overall energy is that you're kind of pulling in at this particular time of reading. All right, no, that's a whole lot. So we've got an Aries moon. You're pulling an Aries moon over here, and you also pulled in Mercury. All right, Taurus. So, communication may be something that's very important for you. Mercury is sort of our communication planet. It rules over our thoughts, our logics, like all sorts of just communication related type of things, like being brainy, being witty, being smart, being intelligent. These are all things that are, well known for Mercury. I think also Mercury has rulership over Gemini, if I'm not mistaken, and also Virgo also has you know, they're kind of ruled over or governed by Mercury, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe communication is something that is being emphasized here. And in addition to that, you also pulled the moon vibration, which the moon vibration represents our feelings, our emotions, sort of, our intuition, these kind of things that you feel like, a nudge that you feel like, this gut feeling that you would feel. These are all things that are connected to our intuition and our yeah, just all things, feelings, emotions, and you're pulling it in from the perspective of like Aries, which, Aries are very passionate. Aries are very, very passionate, and also with that passion can express those emotions sometimes very boldly, very passionately, which is interesting because then we have also here at the top of the deck the Sagittarian, which is also a fire sign, right? As is like the Aries, although, but they're just kind of nudging me to look over here. But it's something about like your emotions and how you express your emotions, and an expression of your emotions, and especially because Mercury is how we express our communications, right? So your emphasis here is your emotional expressions or your emotional communications are things that are being pulled in or being honed into by God, or if you want to look at it as the universe, that's also, that's your choice. But God is kind of pulling in like your attention to this two combinations of things. So at this particular time, I'm not sure if it's going to be a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, but whenever you find this reading, it's something about your emotional expressions that are being highlighted, and that could be something that you maybe are working on, or that you could be working on, or that you are being called to work on, or reflect, or introspect. Yeah, and just going back again into this, like, because Aries are very bold, they're very, they don't hold back, they don't hold back on their emotions. If they're very passionate about you, they'll let you know. If they like you, they'll let you know. Like, it's just a very outwardly expressive sign. And there's also something about Aries because you guys are the first of the zodiac sign, and you guys also have rulership over the first house. So you guys are the first with everything, and you always want to be the first. Aries always wants to be the first. They're very competitive. They're very yeah, just very domineering. It's a very domineering energy. It is cardinal, so it wants to lead, right? Aries wants to lead. It's cardinal. It's all of those things, and I love Arieses. I have some really good friends who are Arieses, and I definitely see these like kind of expressions in them as well. These are the positive things, right? And that's fine. But when you're also thinking at it from the shadow side or from the not so positive side, sometimes also these expressions can come across, can come in the form of like anger, like, you know, so there could be like an anger issue, or there could be um, if let's say there's anger, there's like anger, or there's envy, or there's jealousy, or there's frustration, or there's impatience, you know, which Aries also can be very, very impatient. They may say things that come across very hurtful, right? So if you trigger an Aries person and they're not evolved, their responses will hurt you, right? Because they carry such a potent energy, and if that energy is sort of channeled or expressed, the communication of it is expressed in that manner, it can be very hurtful to some people, right? So this is something that can either make a relationship, that can break a relationship, if it's especially on a more negative side, right? Everybody loves a positive Aries. Everybody wants to be around a positive Aries because they're very just good people to be around. And but you don't want to be like on the side of a negative Aries, or it's like a negative, or like an Aries who's been triggered, you know, really badly, and these emotions, and they don't know how to resolve or work through their emotions, and so those expressions come across as passive aggression, or as anger, or as, you know, frustrations, and then they vent, or they kind of say those things in a very hurtful way, or their thoughts become really dark, or their words that are spoken can become very toxic, very, you know. So these are things, I'm not saying that this is your issue, Taurus, but these are things that are being somehow emphasized in your vibration. So you could be a Taurus sun who has an Aries moon, right? And so you may struggle with like how you communicate your feelings or your emotions, or people may feel that you don't communicate your feelings and emotions very well or often enough, or that you're not bold in the communication of your feelings and your emotions and your processes as they relate to feelings and emotions, right? Because Tauruses are signs that are very grounded. It's an earth energy. They're a little bit more slower moving, and they're very calculated and very practical and very logical. So you may have, if you've really mastered it, then this is, you do this very well, right? If you've really mastered it and you're like really evolved, you could be somebody who has really strong emotions. For a Taurus, people may say, oh, you're a Taurus, but you're so passionate, or you're an earth sign, but how come you've got like so much fire in you, right? So it's like you could be one of those Tauruses who has a Taurus sun, but your moon is in Aries. So you may be a very passionate Taurus. So like if you are, because also Taurus love luxury, they love fashion, they love good food, they love the good finer things in life, but you may kind of also amp it up a notch. You may be just that little bit more spicier, a little bit more, um, yeah, just spicier, just that extra little bit of hotness or sexiness, or, you know, appeal, because of this moon vibration. And you may express it very well if you're somebody who is evolved, self-evolved, you've done the work, the inner healing and all of that stuff, right? But if it's not, then what you're being called to do is sort of like to pay attention to those things, because it may come across as passive aggressive. Like if you are an Aries sun with an Aries moon, and this is like your message, the passive aggressiveness may not come about as much, because I think Aries will just bluntly state it to your face how they feel. But if you're Taurus, because Taurus is a more mellow, more chill kind of vibe, so if there's brewing some anger or some frustrations or some, you know, then it comes across as passive aggressive, right? So these are things, for example, that maybe God, the universe, is trying to get you to maybe think about those things and kind of like see how that plays into your life. Does it affect your relationships? Does it affect the way that you're in your workplace, the way that you work with people, or the way that people encounter you or engage with you? Like, so these are things that are being sort of brought to your attention, right? But So that's kind of like the energy I feel like you're pulling in. But let's see what the tarot, how it clarifies this message, or yeah. Again, this is for the Taurus collective. Just need one more. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. So here we have the Six of Cups, right? Six of Cups. And this is interesting because the Six of Cups is emotional reciprocity. Kind of like what you give is what you get. What you put out is kind of what you get. And yeah, that's what the Six of Cups is. It's kind of like the Six of Pentacles in that what you give is what you get, kind of, but from a monetary perspective, like from a financial perspective, right? So, but if we're looking at the Six of Cups, it's almost the same as the Six of Pentacles, but the cups, as we were saying, refers to our emotions and our feelings, right? So God really is on this message, and He's really confirming it, that we are definitely talking about your feelings, and we're talking about your emotions, right? And so when we have the Six of Cups here, it's about that emotional give and take, that emotional reciprocity. Are you kind enough to yourself, and so therefore you attract kindness? Are you kind to other people, and therefore you attract kindness back to you? How do you express those feelings of impatience, or how do you express those feelings of frustration or anger? All of that stuff, right? And because if what you put back then is what you're going to get. And so when this comes in reverse, it definitely marries, or it testifies the message that was being kind of given through these two original cards, that this is what this is about. It is about the expression of those things, because you have the feelings, you have the emotions, they do what they do, they brew, and they manifest positively if you're evolved. But this came negative, it came reversed. So maybe this is your life lesson, or this is your lesson for this month or for this week, that how do you handle those moments, right? Because also you may be somebody who you can sort of come across like very kind, very nice, very polite, respectful, you say good things, whatever, and you do good, right? But then in a competitive space, those emotions rear like an ugly side, right? Like if you are, let's say, an athlete, or you are in the corporate world and you missed out on an opportunity, or you lost an opportunity, or if you're a sporting person, you lost the competition or the game or whatever, right? And then in those moments where the passion and the emotions are so intensified, you may lack the self-discipline and the self-control to express those in a way that that's positive, right? And so I think that this is kind of like the lines where they're being pulled. So it's kind of like maybe God is asking you, like, in one area of your life, maybe you do well with this, right? But maybe in another area of your life where you have to compete, or you have to show up in spaces with other people, maybe this presents itself differently. And so this is not me knowing exactly what it is, but it's kind of like the ideas that I'm getting that I feel to present to you, Taurus. And so it's kind of up to you to really sit with yourself and see, like, where the expression of my emotions and feelings, how do they function, how do they come across, and who does it affect, how does it affect other people in our relationship or in your relationship, right? Like this emotional give and take, how do your emotions and your feelings function? How does that expression come across, right? Is what I'm getting here. And I think that this definitely makes a lot of sense. And the fact that it came reverse is not necessarily so bad. It just shows that maybe this is an area that you are choosing to focus on, or that you're choosing to work on, or that maybe God or the universe is trying to get you to look into that side of that aspect of your life. Maybe because you have a prayer, that you prayed, or you were pondering or wondering about something, and this reading may be a form of an answered prayer, in that it gives you an opportunity to think about the expressions and the communication styles of your feelings and emotions, and how that impacts your relationships in terms of your emotional give and takes. All right, so that's all I have here for you, Taurus. Not yet sure if I will label this reading as a weekly thing or bi-weekly thing or monthly thing, but whenever you find it or come across it, I believe is when you needed to hear it. So thanks for staying, if you stayed, and thanks for the support, and thanks for liking and subscribing and all of that stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. All the best.